stop now.
Wait, what's going on, Filthy Frank? Oh, is that the new Star episode? Well. Well, 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 well. Well, 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 well. This is the very first episode of the Butterfly Show.
The Butterfly Show.
Yeah, what do you think we're going to talk about? We're here to talk about stars since we do so many star videos and people seem to like them. I figured I'd just spin off our regular star discussions into a new show, basically. So
sounds awesome.
And so my first kind of action, the first thing I'm gonna do on this very first episode, I'm done.
You're done?
And I'm after season 3, I'm just done. Like, I think I'm gonna go just see you later.
Bye, Marco.
I'm going to go work for the post office. All right. I guess I don't qualify. I'm back from that sort of retirement.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, just season 3.
It was pretty intense, man. It was pretty intense. What did you think, Stefano?
Let's go at it. I'll go one at a time per these episodes to give you a better idea. But let me just put it this way. You can sum it up in my first message back to you. Mostly good. Some very irritating. I can definitely see why Reddit exploded that day.
Oh, this is no longer legitimate, I guess. I was gonna dress up as Cape Marco, but what was that cape? It's not a knight's cape, it's a... What was it?
We'll get to it. So, alright. What about... Well, wait a second. Okay, yeah. Me, talk to Bobby. You.
Me? I, simply put, was very content with the episodes.
Silence right there.
I don't have too much to say. I mean, I thought it was awesome. Well, actually, I need to say what I was going to say for when we talk about the specific episode, because it's episode specific what I was going to say. It has to do. Remember when I thought in the little dance thing that I saw Marco, Bobby?
I think my heart stopped. I'm just kidding. Just like
Okay.
Club Snub was very, very hard to watch.
All right. Well, no. Well, we'll get to that eventually. Let's start off with, I guess you could say, part of the good times. And that is literally the sneak peek that Bobby was so angry he got spoiled about, Marco leaving, is the first episode.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. I don't know. I thought it was
I did not expect that at all.
I thought it was going to be more. I thought there was going to be more to it, but...
Exactly!
Nope.
Just kind of like, okay, I'm going back to Earth. I'm sad because I really don't want to go, but yeah. Bye. You can stop me anytime. You sure you don't want to stop me? Okay, I'm going through the portal now.
And we get a very creepy episode.
Hug and then go. Well, yeah. Because essentially, right after that, the rest of the episode is her being obsessed with Marco's scent through, she'd been keeping his old hoodie.
I called it! Remember, Bobby, when we were talking about what that trailer piece meant? I was like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be her not wanting to wash it because She wants to keep smelling it or something. We even said that we're going to expect something else because we didn't know if Disney was going to go that far, but they did!
Look, guys, I think everybody watching this knows I am we all are big Starfish shippers, but I'm just like, oh god! Like, oh man, I'm sorry, I just find that really creepy, to be honest.
Okay, I'm going to say I don't find it creepy only because it's very common, and it's honestly one of the less intense, kind of like, I guess you could say, obsessive behaviors that I've seen as far as people who have crushes. And
I've
really,
had crushes.
I'm not surprised at all. She's kind of that kind of person who has like a really intense memory as far as like scents and like images and stuff like that. So I'm not surprised at all. In fact, I find it very fitting for her character.
Okay, look, technically speaking, the way they handled it was kind of sweet. But at the same time, it's hard for me not to say, could you imagine if Adam MacArthur tried doing that to Eden Shear in real life?
Their interaction isn't like that in real life.
Well, no, I doubt they're even close friends in real life, but I'm just saying.
Exactly. But that's the whole context that really puts it all into perspective, because obviously this wouldn't really happen with somebody you just didn't know off the bat, and you're just like, they smell good. There's a sense of familiarity between the two. They've had enough time where they identify each other through many things that they may not even realize consciously. It makes sense.
Which is funny because that thing has pretty much overshadowed everything about the episode, which is the fact that the rest of the episode is practically a Looney Tunes episode.
Essentially.
It's just chase that hoodie. You have to get it washed. Oh, okay. Hey, this isn't that bad.
I will say, if you guys are wondering, I don't know if I talked about this on YouTube before, but remember, Gabby, I told you there was a regular show episode where, spoiler alert for guys who like regular show, when Margaret breaks up with Mordecai finds Margaret's sweater. Like, see, I know you don't watch the show, but, bear with me. And so he tries...
Trust me, I know about these things. Gabby can tell you more about Mysterious Girlfriend X for that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because that show does that.
Although, granted, in regular show...
That was trippy. That was a good read. What was a good watch? Did I watch it? Yeah, I watched it. It was a good watch. It was so trippy.
Although, granted, in regular show's case, it wasn't really about the scent, and it was a more intimate relationship, so...
That's true. But it is definitely a thing, so I don't find it very off-putting or very weird, to be honest.
Yes, not objectively speaking, it was a nice episode. It's just really, but it's just, I think my biggest problem critically is the way they portrayed Marco going back to Earth.
How come? Like, with the whole deal with him wanting to keep the cape on?
Honestly, on to the later episodes, but honestly, the thing that can be taken from this part and is a problem that's probably gonna permeate through the rest of the episode, the time skip was too quick.
Exactly. Because, well,
we talk about the other episodes, but that's
but more specifically, my problem was they just portrayed as, oh, Marco's going back to Earth, that's all. Oh, he's got, life obligations, which I know, like, deep in his head, like, which we can get into in one of the later episodes. I don't have the names off the top of my head.
I do. I have them on Wikipedia right now, so we can go at them one at a time.
Okay.
So, also, if we're basing it off of scent, the joke to this episode is essentially right when she's done cleaning it, sends it back to Marco, and the cycle continues.
Yes, that Marco can, smell Star.
I found that kind of sweet, though.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. I enjoyed that.
It's gonna be sad later when you consider.
How do we even know that though? Like we have nothing really to base off of.
Well, we can move now. Before we get into that, we can move into the very next one, which is
Breast and pudding.
or what I call
Oh yeah.
or what I would call the birth of retarded glossaric.
Oh my goodness.
You know it's true.
I honestly don't. Well, I mean, we could talk more about what Glosswork does in the later episodes, but the episode itself I thought was pretty good. It was pretty endearing.
Yeah, it was a very good ghost story almost. It kind of reminds me of not of the Halloween episode in a way, just how it's shot and how it's paced. Like
This was better than Hungry Larry.
yeah, they did a really good job of making such a goofy character suddenly seem creepy just by just can be everywhere.
Oh yeah, and one of the other things I like is how it also works off a little bit about off of Star's sort of like sense of regret and kind of like feeling like she didn't really have like she left things unfinished with him that she wanted to say more to him. About that kind of like
also that she's the laughy one during a funeral. Yeah, this opens with a funeral with Romulus. Rest in peace.
No, not Romulus. It was Lekmit.
Lekmith, yeah. Goat boy.
I actually really liked him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you guys are wondering, is Lekmit dead? Darren Nefsey said, well, he got turned into dust, so yeah. But the funeral itself is played, for laughs.
Yeah, like the whole thing about. I like the fact that they paid attention to the fact that all of the funeral food is just cans, like empty cans.
Oh. Yeah. Oh jeez. Actually, I don't know. That part is actually a bit of a blur. But
the cans, I remember it pretty well.
Also, as the fanboy right over here. Also, yes, as the total fanboy over here. Hekapoo in that funeral dress, absolute gold. Absolute gold right there.
Gracious, you and Hekapoo.
What can I say? But yeah, like.
I'm guilty as charged with Eclipsa, so we're all good there.
Well,
which I'm really happy to see playing out the way I was hoping so far. Just kind of throwing that out.
Hekapoo doesn't really do that much, like outside of running with scissors. I mean, she fought in Star Crush, but
spoiler. Well, technically it's not a spoiler because it's already announced, but there is gonna be another episode specifically with her in next week, so we'll get to that eventually.
Okay.
Sounds cool.
I gotta be honest, like, it's so weird. Like, it's not that I hate Hekapoo or anything. Please bear with me, Star fans. Please don't, find me.
No, bear with me.
I don't know. I don't really get into Hekapoo that much. Like, okay, she's well designed, but it's like, yeah. I mean, you're voiced by the actor that did High Five Ghost Girlfriend in regular show, but I don't know. I wish they would show. I don't know. I just couldn't get into Hekapoo that much.
I mean, I can definitely understand the appeal. The story behind the character is pretty interesting, and the design is just awesome.
If anything, I became more invested in Tom, to be quite honest. But we're seeing.
Oh, we'll get to him. He is an MVP of this. He's the MVP of this week. We'll get to him.
Oh yeah.
But before we do, one thing I will say, I know we talked about briefly touched upon it, but I really like how this episode ended before Glossaric got reborn. Of just Star finally confronting with the fact that maybe she wasn't the best student, but she acknowledging her flaws and what basically about to let him go before he ended up coming back to life. That's what
Yeah,
you can put it.
I honestly, that was probably my favorite part from that episode.
Same.
Like it, being like, you know what? Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, the bane of my week.
Club snub.
Bobby there gritting his teeth. Oh gosh, no!
Help!
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Your
Okay,
power
let's
was
get
so-
into why you react.
Your power was so strong that you made Gabby's end a literal blur.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll keep that in mind. But okay, look. Can I start with Club Snub?
Sure. This
Let
is
me
all
make
you.
one thing totally clear. Despite my rage tweeting and stuff like that, I thought it was a good episode. Okay, I actually really liked it. It's just sometimes it's hard to control my inner fan.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that.
Okay. Tom, as I said in our explosive Comic-Con trailer discussion,
Oh,
not a bad
yes.
character. If anything, I could see his kind of a character in a lot of people I personally know in my family and stuff, in terms of they're well-meaning, but they have a short fuse. Okay? I just wanted to make that clear, alright? Because I really hate it when I watched the episode, it was, first of all, very hard for me because you know that dance scene is coming up, you know?
And
It's
you know
so
that
beautiful.
it is not a flashback like I predicted. I'm totally wrong on this one.
I
I
think
think
we
I
all...
kind of had an idea. I thought it could go either way, but I kind of felt like it would be. I'm not surprised at all, though. And it makes a lot of sense.
Wait, I can't think because my head's going wired, so... Yeah. But, yeah, but as an episode Club Snub, what do you guys want to talk about? Because
Yes, I was going to say something about that because you remember that I actually accidentally thought that the guy in that red outfit was Marco for a second.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah,
Dave.
I was actually surprised to find out. It's from what I understand, it's Tom's dad, right? Yeah.
By the way, I want to know how that became possible. When you see the side of Tom's mom compared to Tom's dad, that is just hilarious right there.
Well, I highly doubt it would have worked out the other way. I mean, that could have been worse.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, bigger womb?
Okay, you actually.
Okay, this is
that.
getting crazy for a Disney discussion.
I don't know. Why do I?
But
Moving
yeah,
on.
but basically, it's just like Ponyo. How did that make that? How did that and that make that? You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
I can definitely see where he got his personality.
Okay, all right. Point made, but okay.
Yes.
I can definitely see where Tom's more easygoing attitude came. That's on his dad's side.
Mhm.
All the rage
Right.
is from his
So
mom.
he was the one like getting on a fight with River though because they were
River-
both to you.
But yeah, we got sidetracked. We're continuing on about the actual episode. Gabby, do you want to add something specific? No, Gabby and Bobby, do you want to add specifically on how the episode went?
I don't know. I just kind of like it was. I didn't really think much of it, other than it was well done. Like there wasn't really anything I really noted.
Oh, Bobby's about to say something.
Well, I think the thing I liked most from that app is most of the time, I think we all assumed Tom wouldn't dance with Star because they have bad blood. Now, why everybody was hoping for Tom and Star to dance, they broke up. At least in that episode, they were No more. Zilch. Mike Myers will probably come up with 5 other ways to put it. It's no more.
And the other thing I liked was the fact that it wasn't really him doing that.
Right.
Because
he wanted to give Star space.
Really, really predictable, really kind of shallow. But the whole concept that he was doing it in order to show respect to Star.
Yeah.
I can really see that. And honestly, it's pointed out that it was a bad move on his part. But the good intent is still obviously
right. Now, was that dance out of...
Really happy with that was awesome.
Gabby, remember we said we think that Star and Tom went up as not a romantic feeling, but that kind of past feeling sort of feel?
Yes, and that definitely came through with the episode. I was really happy to see that.
A Disney cartoon portrays a flames of a former relationship in a, I don't know about realistic, but in a sensical way.
That was beautiful. I love it.
I will say this episode and a later episode really do point out, okay, TV writers, you want to create an X character that isn't a total pandy. Pay attention to this right over here.
I would agree. This is an awesome example of a really cool kind of like ex-boyfriend type character.
Disney, you need to get onto marketing this show. You can't just rely on Marvel and Star Wars. I'm not kidding. You know how there was a controversy when people found out Disney wanted to buy 20th Century Fox?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember going on Twitter, people were like, no, then Disney will turn all the Fox franchises into clean corporate, stuff. And that just made me...
Maybe they would. Maybe they would. You saw what Disney could do with that much power.
If he had made like Deadpool, it wouldn't have been rated R.
Oh, yeah.
And to which I say, they can't even market their lesser-known properties right. They really need to get onto
and
it.
One of the sad things I'm noticing that I find like a lot of stuff like this, it at least goes through with like the Disneys, even if they aren't too much in like say like the TV shows. But I'm seeing nowadays that even with the Disneys, this is just kind of like thrown under the rug type deal. I mean, I was talking with this person who has a lot of friends that work at Disney, and we were making a script. We were making a script for a kind of interview type deal to talk with a cast member. And I actually wanted to include a question involving Star as a good example of an empowering female role model. But heck, this person who had been looking all over Disney, loved Disney, and went to Disneyland all the time, watched all the movies, and looked at all this stuff. They were just kind of like, I don't know who that is.
Then watch the show. Duh.
I know. But I mean that's the problem. Like it's just the show is just not getting around like into other kind of like fandoms as much as in other cases with Disney. I would love to see that. I don't know how it hasn't gone around more, especially with a lot of Disney fans being really big on like feminine empowerment. Also, Elena of Avalor is another good example of that. Though that one's starting to kind of like get a little more
At
attention.
least you can buy merchandise for Elena of Avalor,
Yeah, but we can't even see that with Star, which is kind of upsetting.
Yeah. It just burns whenever, like, I look at my friends that are Disney fans. Never heard of this show.
The shame.
But we'll talk about that another time. What's the next episode?
Well, wait.
Not their fault.
Before we get to the next episode, because Gabby, this is going to be all you. But before that, I will say one line in this episode. Bobby, you talked about this episode close enough was a bit painful to watch. There was one line that did make it painful to watch.
What?
Star saying that we are not a thing involving Marco. I know.
I'm not really sure if I buy that.
It was very much a small, like 1 second thing, but I can't lie. It did kind of hurt to watch.
Yes. Hi. Hello. Here. Hello. Please. May I? I'm going to point out that it was actually really well thought out there.
Yeah.
Because they could have easily gone with Star lying and being like, oh, yeah, yeah, Marco's totally blah, 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 and just go off all over there. However, she is telling the truth. At that point, there is nothing further going on between her and Marco. They have not really made it apparent if there was any, like reciprocation of interest from Marco. So Star is again showing very mature reaction to all of this and pointing out there is nothing between the two of them. So I personally do not find it cringy. I find it very well thought out.
Oh, Bobby, you want to say something? Okay. Silence.
Okay, look. If Star decided to not get with Marco, that would be cool. Okay? However, the way the show went about it, especially with all that stuff at the end of season 2, I just feel like we went from, oh, I don't know, I mean, I do like Marco too. Nope, it's done. It's just bury the hatchet. Just, what?
Yet another example of the time skip being too quick.
No. I'm going to say that's not necessarily what's being said out front with this, because honestly, there's nothing saying that there will not be anything between them. In fact, there are a few things that are pointing towards the exact opposite.
We'll get to that, but
Hold on.
Hold on.
I feel like if they start hinting at it even more than they have right now, too soon, right now, that could have just completely ruined it. Because it'd just be too predictable. And it wouldn't give it as much of a realistic kind of like mature sense that we've been getting this whole time. And again, Star is very upfront about this, so she's not going to say it more or less than it actually is. She's just going to say it as is, not implying anything else, not implying it's going one way or another, just leaving it right where it is at the moment. So I would not even say that we should throw it out and bury the hatchet and leave it as it is, because that is definitely not what they're saying.
Yeah.
We're not saying it as it is like that. Like, we're not basically saying anything you're saying is wrong.
Bobby
No.
just...
Oh.
He's like, that's it, done, bury the hatchet, it's all gone.
No, this is how I see it. I'm not exactly disagreeing with you on any of that. I'm just saying that because of how it is with the time skip is this quick, especially right after some of the previous episodes, it is very jarring because it's almost like it is trying to almost press the reset button at points. And we'll get to that more in detail because I think this episode, that one line in this episode, isn't even the biggest example of that. But we'll get to that right when it happens. For now, we're...
I have one more thing I'd just like to say. I haven't heard too many Starco Tom Star fights on social media, so I just want to say to the fans, thank you for not making this fan base look horrible.
You are not the Steven Universe fan base, and thank God for that.
And let's point out again, Rick and Morty, Steven Universe, don't be pushed away by it just because of the horror stories you hear from the fandoms, because those are the first apples of the whole bunch, and they're going to be the loudest. So don't base whether you go into a fandom into a show. I won't even say fandom because you don't even need to get into the fandom if you don't like. But don't throw out a good TV show or a good song or a good band or a good movie just because some bad apples made some bad reputations for the people who like it. I mean, heck, I actually felt really bad having to deal with a lot of people going on social media and being like, oh, if you're a Rick and Morty fan, I'm so disappointed in your fandom. You should unfriend me already. Blah, 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 blah. I feel like that's taking it a bit too far. I will understand, there are horrible things that have happened in both fandoms, which is why our friend Steven here is pointing that out.
Yeah.
But
and as for the Starco fans out there, let's all chase it down with some fries. If I had McDonald's French fries with me. Okay, let's move on.
Fries is for the weak. Get some booze. It'll make the pain less. It'll make
And
the
I
pain
want to
easier
point
to
out one
take.
more thing. I also
No, Gabby, we really need to get you to that episode because this is your expertise. The
okay,
Eclipse reveal.
let's go. Let's do this. What are we talking about here?
Eclipse.
You are gonna tell us about the Eclipse reveal. That's the next episode.
I love it! Oh my gosh! Oh, yes! Just yes! Oh my gosh! It just keeps going on in the whole direction that I've been expecting so far. I mean, yes, we have that whole ordeal where she's being kept in chains, and we don't know what's going on with her. But to this point, we have nothing that puts it clear cut as to why she has so much hate. Even with the whole deal of her being interested in a monster and abandoning her kingdom, it seems like that's not the only thing they considered as an offense against the kingdom. So I'm actually really excited to see how it keeps going.
Yeah, Moon even said it's very complicated, so maybe there is more to it than just Moon the Undaunted. Do you think there's maybe even stuff that happened, like, well, obviously, like, Moon's not just talking about, like, her meeting Eclipse when she was a kid, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the main example that's kind of pointing towards anything that should be, kind of like keeping us wary of her is the fact of the damage that Eclipse's magic has been doing to Moon. The thing is, what exactly is happening to Moon and why? We may not understand what's behind the magic that Eclipse has been using, and whether it necessarily is evil, or if she created it with good intent, but it just became extremely dangerous.
Well, I think there's no question that the magic itself is evil. I mean, by the end of the episode, she's going, aren't you worried that it might corrupt him a little, specifically with Glossric and the head pat? That is definitely a wink to the audience.
We don't know. She could just be making another joke.
I do really like how...
It could also be that she meant that seriously, and she's just letting Star imagine that it's a joke, but she still delivered it the same way she delivered those other jokes. So, we can't say it's one or the other. And I'm loving this. The suspense is just building up so much more. And, I love it. At this point, I will not be upset if anything is revealed to paint her as a completely evil character. I hope that won't happen because I really want to keep liking her and just being in this suspense that's just building up like this, to an enjoyable extent. But, oh my gosh, this thing is just getting better and better. Yes.
I will say I do really like how it's really hard to tell, what Eclipse, because so far, Eclipse is mainly she's being accused, she's had her conversations with Star, but, it's hard to say, is she manipulating her, or is she just, just here, she's back after all those years,
and the fact that she's still continuing to be extremely passive, from what they're making us believe as far as Eclipse's danger and extent of power, we would expect Eclipse to have already done something about it and just destroyed everything and everyone around her if she so wanted to. Now, the question is, why hasn't she done it? And does she have any intent to do that? But as far as we know, she's just a calm, misunderstood lady who likes eating chocolate and feeding random weird food that we don't know what is to birds.
Star says they taste like popcorn.
But it's not popcorn.
Yeah. But I will say the fact that Eclipse is very passive does kind of make me a little anxious.
I don't know. I feel like if I were in Star's position, I would definitely be very kind of like, what's the word? Just like trusting of her. Though, to potentially a fault, I will admit.
She does say just because that she doesn't want her crystallized doesn't mean that she's not suspicious.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I just gotta get my head out of that Steven Spielberg movie Bridge of Spies where Mark Rylance's character, I don't know if I call him passive, but he's not exactly like, oh, the United States government arrested me. Tee.
Fair enough.
But yeah.
Should we move on to... Oh, okay, I think this is a good point for me to point out. Steven, you keep pointing out as to, like, the quickness of the time jumps and how they're not really planned out very well. I'm going to point out I may not be the best at noticing that only because I have a very short attention span. So, for me, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, now we're doing this now. Okay, cool.
Maybe it's, I guess we're all different, but I also have a very short attention span, so... But then again, my head is always in Star versus Force of Evil.
And not only to the point where I will ignore things, but to the point where I will actually enjoy if things just move on faster. So it may not even be
okay. Then it makes sense.
Attention to it. It'll be like the fact, like, okay, we're moving on. Okay, this thing is going forward. Okay, cool, makes sense. Don't need an explanation.
Hey, before we move on, can I make a plug?
Sure.
Starco fans, start buying these.
What? Oh,
put yourself back together again.
Back together now?
Doesn't even have to be romantic. Just so they don't split up ever again, just keep these on hand. Okay, just...
Because we are moving into a painful episode, and I'll let Bobby take the highlight for this one.
Yes.
Is this the one with Tom, where he gets... What do you call
Demoncism?
Again, I thought it was a pretty good episode. Although, I have to ask about that ending. I mean...
Okay, we'll get to that eventually, but we can start...
Wait, actually, let me point out by saying this. Truth be told, I was actually very concerned about Tom in this episode. Like, I did not want to see him get demon-sized. Like, I will say right off the bat, you know.
Heck,
This episode really made Tom extremely likable, just for the fact that throughout half the episode, it's pointing out just what demoncism can do to people. Like, it can turn an absolute rebel into a nerdy corporate machine.
Oh my god!
What?
I don't have a whistle with me, but it's just like, is that where all the corporate people go when they get their MBAs? Not to scare you, Steven, but...
if you're a terrible student like me, then no.
I'm going to point out, I love how you can see kind of sort of parallels with what you could sort of consider of mental health here. I'm not going to say that they're complete intent because I'm not sure, but I could definitely
I wouldn't be surprised.
With the whole idea where a person could get so desperate to kind of find a way to fix themselves after trying so hard on their own to do it. Will they just go into something like that, or going through to the point where, even Star points out, hey, you got this problem, it's in you, and you have a lot of it, but if you learn how to manage it, you could probably live with it. It won't be completely gone because it's going to be there forever, but you can at least work with it around and, learn coping. Essentially what is talked about when trying to learn coping mechanisms with things like anxiety, temper problems, depression. A lot of people talk about when it comes to depression, learning how to continue life with it and just sort of keeping it on the side, not necessarily ignoring it, but realizing when that's what's causing you to have these extreme fluctuations in emotion and giving you no reason to actually feel the way that you do, because it's not something that's triggered by thoughts, it's something triggered chemically in your brain, which I kind of really enjoyed because it's true. I'm not going to say that you should just deal with your problems and not look for help, but look
when
for
the help
right.
is so extreme that it just sucks out your personality.
That's a problem. And it also, I find, as someone who has actually been given help as a child for diagnosis of ADHD, a lot of people are talking about that where it's like, I don't want to give my child that medication. It sucks the life right out of them and leaves them as robots.
You know what, Gabby? I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the intent was to make like mental health parallels.
I love it. And I mean, I know we've seen similar parallels in shows like Steven Universe, but this one just rang out so, I don't know, so organically. Like, it wasn't pushy, but it was really clear, you know? Just kind of like, hey, this is a good thing to take out from the episode.
I'll tell you the reason why it rang that well. Because essentially, this has been Tom's conflict throughout, basically from the first episode we've seen of him. Him going to entirely different degrees of how to make himself a better person, even though he's pretty destructive in personality. And so by the time that we reach up to this point, it pretty much boils down to, okay, how much of it are you willing to give up to be a better person to everyone around you, but at the cost of what you were? And that's one aspect that both how Star is dealing with Tom and how Tom is trying to deal with basically his past relationships, how that's going to factor in with this one decision. And one thing I will say is that that whole result over there kind of saves this episode from being a possible disaster, because if there's one thing I was worried about throughout the first half of this episode, it kind of showed that Star can be pretty obsessive, like extremely obsessive. Like, she will dive into your business even if it's not what you want. And depending on how this went, that could have been a horrible thing.
Right.
Nods in agreement.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I also kind of relate as a person who has lately been trying to, you know, change a lot about myself. So, you know, going through college and yeah. I mean, you've seen the Facebook messages, Gabby.
Oh yeah. I keep on telling you, why don't you post those on Twitter?
Those moments of time, like those moments in life where we're kind of getting to that point where we're just hitting the next level of maturity that we're getting to, and there's always in that kind of change and level of maturity where there's so much friction, where you're trying to really push yourself to just whoosh, go through that and get to the next level, but there's just so much to go through before you reach it. And the other thing I really like, coming back to how you're pointing out how Star is also doing that, and Tom even points out and says, heck, you're trying to be the best princess that you can be. And you know what, Star, that's so inspiring. Like, I want to do that too. I want to be the best prince I can be. We got to keep in mind that this is not what Star wants. So what we're getting now is another kind of plot, another kind of like a conflict that's building up, where we're going to see Star is potentially giving up what she wants to do in life for the sake of the kingdom and her role as princess and future queen of Muni. Now, with Marco in the picture, we're going to see come through whether Marco just continues to let her do that, or if he's going to remind her somewhere along the line that there was something else she wanted to do with her life, and it's still not too late to do it.
Well, that'll show up in very soon, because the very next episode is an episode that me and Bobby seem to be kind of mixed on. Like, I seem to like it. Like, first off, Gabby, how do you feel about the next one? The next one is Sophomore Slump.
I'm kind of hard keeping track of which one we're on.
The day Marco said goodbye to Echo Creek.
Oh, I actually really liked it. I'm sorry, Bobby.
Bobby?
Poor Bobby. His face. Oh.
Did that?
I
Did
can't actually see your face because of the mask.
Mhm.
But it just comes through like this. Just there's no movement there. It's just like, oh.
See, this is an episode I saw coming, like towards the end of season 2. But again, the time, space, just
I don't know.
it's so
I feel like that was actually well thought out. It was well thought out because it didn't go too long where we're going like, oh my gosh, finally, holy moly, we didn't need all of this drama with Marco kind of denying that, there was somebody who could potentially be more important to him here. Even if he doesn't see them as a romantic partner, that doesn't mean that they can't be more important.
Well, that's the thing, though. That's not even the only conflict throughout this episode. The real conflict is he, without Star around, he's basically become two things. He's become very clingy to his quote-unquote good times, his achievements, and he's also become clingy around the fact that clinginess basically makes him an entire jerk. Like, what have all of you been doing?
Well, I wouldn't say an entire jerk, but definitely pulling that out of him. And I think part of why he becomes so clingy and to these parts, and it's kind of something I've experienced. I'm going to point out, is the fact that when you're so used to a bunch of crazy stuff happening, and all of a sudden that's just taken right out, and you're just like left to relax and get back into the calm of everything, you kind of feel odd because you're like, nothing's going on. What do I do now? Just kind of like, shouldn't I be off doing something? Like, that's what I've been doing the majority of the time now. Like, what's up with that? So, in your conversations, in your mundane moments in life, you just keep talking back to those crazy things that keep happening. So I kind of see where that's coming from. And I mean, especially with Marco, because they weren't just really crazy things. They were things that were good memories for him, It was like his main achievements, because before that, he was nothing but the safe kid who didn't take any risks and didn't do anything crazy and just kind of stayed on the sidelines watching everyone else do crazy things and figuring themselves out while he just kept safe. So it became the main thing that he could really identify himself with, I feel. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Dang it, I could hear myself on Gabby's TV. What was I gonna say?
Put your headphones back on.
I need to be right next to the computer if I want to do that, and then you're just going to be staring in my face, and I won't be able to see you guys.
Alright. But, okay, like, I'll admit, like, maybe because I kind of like, drama, I was, expecting an episode where Marco's all, like, sad and glum. I will say I'm glad they didn't go in that direction of, I will say, it is interesting that he's, he seems a lot more chipper and living in his good times. But things like him leaving, Echo Creek for good, well, I don't know about for good, but like, they've made it sound like, that's it.
But first, I want to say, I know that Bobby, you told me, is that audio thing fixed? I can still hear the echo.
Should I lower the volume on my television?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Just a sec.
Can you still hear us?
Hold on. I can. I can't see where the volume's going though. Hold on a sec. I'm going to put it Can you talk now?
Can you hear me?
Can you
Yeah,
hear
I
us?
can hear you. Maybe I'll lift it up a tiny bit.
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay, that's better?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is much better.
All
That's better. What I
right.
want to say, Bobby, I know you told me through the chat that this felt rushed to you, but what pretty much made this episode for me is that even though this character has pretty much had only been there as just the role as the girlfriend, I think the second half of this episode really sold me on Jackie's character. Like
I'll
just the
admit
fact
it
that
did.
she's able, yeah, yeah, she's the way that she's able to just not only pull Marco out of that slump, but eventually, not, after spending such a great time, still be able to leave off in such a not only a respectful way, but one that leaves her without having to lose too much. Like the way that whole second half went, I think that was pretty much the perfect goodbye for me. Like,
I would agree, and it definitely shows that Jackie had the best intentions for Marco. You know, just kind of like thinking
Yeah.
about not only what she would like having him as a partner, but thinking about what he needs and what she needs along with that. Because she could have easily been like, no, I know what I need. He needs to provide that for me, which is a problem that a lot of people have when trying to form relationships, you know, not being able to think about what the other person needs. And then considering whether she could provide that for him and not, figuring out that she was not the person to provide it for him, just let him go and figure out who could. It's
Yeah.
a difficult, very
and
difficult
not
decision.
and not leave it at a disadvantage for herself. That's one thing that I really respect because that kind of character can come off as just being manipulated for a role if she was pretty much just giving up everything trying to keep this whole thing going. But that showed the perfect balance between both her selfless state and sort of her more individualistic traits, and how she can go leaving off in a way that keeps both in balance. Like you can bring up specifics for sure. Like I'll leave you to put some inputs right here.
Yeah, like, I totally respect that. I mean, I'm glad it wasn't like, a cat fight between Jackie and Star. But, yeah, I mean,
That would have been really
That
cringe
would
to
kill.
watch. It would be
If
really
that
hard to
happened,
watch.
yeah.
yeah. I guess, I don't know, it just felt kind of weird that, Marco's back on Earth, and just, I mean, I understand, yeah, he feels, those glory days. But I don't know, I just feel like I didn't get, enough out of it.
I don't know because we gotta consider that in those kinds of situations, the people who are going through it aren't going to be very aware of it, which I think is portrayed pretty well in the episode, especially since Jackie had to be the one to point it out to Marco. Main way that I think they really got that through very well. And the other thing that's the main point that you really needed to get out of Marco going back to Echo Creek, the fact that he honestly did not want to and felt in a sense obligated to because of everything that he would be leaving behind at that point. So to an extent where it wasn't really overplayed, which I kind of enjoyed. It was just kind of like there, and you get the idea. Oh, okay, Marco really didn't want to go there, but he just kind of has the idea that he does, and that he's got Jackie now, so he should be happy. He shouldn't have to worry about all these crazy things now. He's got what he's been wanting for a long time, and he should be content.
Yeah.
But Jackie's the one to point out, no, that shouldn't be the case. If that's holding you back, you know that you need to let it go.
Exactly, which is why I genuinely enjoyed seeing that, even though it was a little, kind of like bittersweet, we should say.
You Dude, you are not alone on that aspect. I got some feels when it came to those lines. Like they
I'm
were just
going
handled
to
so.
admit, though, even though I'm one to get intense feels at moments like this, I just
It is
felt really
fact.
happy. I'm not gonna lie, like it was in a sense healing, kind of watching that. I was just like, I'm so happy.
Well, yeah, that's what bittersweetness can do.
Yeah.
I
I
do
mean,
under I do understand Bobby's point though that it still felt like maybe there could have been something more, only because well, consider how much episodes this is. This that whole arc is half an episode, and before this recent episode came out, that's only been around six half episodes, and that whole subplot, which has been running throughout the entire show, gets settled in about 5 to 6 minutes. So
Wow, that's a good
just by
point.
just by the fact that compared to basically how the ratio is, and that the first Marco Solo episode throughout this time was less than a quarter of the episode that came out, I can definitely you do get that feeling that yeah, maybe they should have spent a bit more time on um, what it's like living on Earth.
yeah. Again, it might be because, I'm one for kind of dramatic scenes, like, but yeah, I don't. I kind of feel that kind of hits the nail on the head that, literally next time we see Marco, yeah, I miss the glory days. Back to Muni.
Well, I do think that the moment itself for me was strong enough for me to
The
accept the
moment itself
transition.
was good, you know.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, even as a guy, as somebody that ships Circle, I kind of felt bad.
Yeah, honestly, like you felt bad, but you didn't feel like anyone was you didn't feel like anyone was entirely lost from that. Like
No.
they are losing a big chunk, but it is for the better, honestly.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So should we move right along to Windcatcher?
AKA the episode I told you to prepare your armor, your pitchforks, and your torch. Okay.
Oh boy.
Oh gosh.
So far this season, even though Windcatcher the second half was pretty good, the first half I felt like I was watching Lobster Claws again.
Oh, that hits hard right there.
I would
I,
agree.
oh, really?
I don't know. No, I mean, I would give this kind of hard. Like, that's kind of just like, whoa. I don't know. I didn't feel that really. I just kind of like, yeah, maybe it's
Okay,
like.
maybe not that bad, but some of the reasons why I didn't like Lobster Claws kind of popped up in the first half of Windcatcher.
Okay, I think you'll have a lot to say on this. I guess I'll just let out my complaints on it first, and that is it's just um like honestly we can get into the stuff regarding the Starco dynamic throughout later on, but I just want to make this very clear. One thing I think is legit bad about this episode is the reason why Marco has to go through the Squire arc. I think the whole thing regarding both both River and Moon's system of him having to earn his title, and just the way the rest of the kingdom treats him that coldly, the reasons behind it feel very contrived. Like it feels like it is there specifically to put him down, not because it's natural. If it was natural, it would be in a way that wouldn't be this overt. Like, Bobby, Gabby, you can bring up some very specific lines, but I think we can all agree the meat blanket thing was stupid. Yeah,
Guess I won't
the
be
meat
wearing this
blanket
at
thing.
cons anymore.
I was actually furious at River when it got to
Same.
that point.
Can I just say
Like-
something? If my cousin Anna watches this, you can hate River in this episode.
Oh,
Like,
I know that River is supposed to make mistakes, but that was I'm gonna you can censor this all you want. I think that was fucking unforgivable. What that was supposed to imply. Like,
dude,
oh,
you know I
we
don't
didn't
censor
think you were
these
coming this
chats.
soon. We just wanted to give you a good pat, not realizing that something like this might happen.
Like,
Okay.
okay, here, that was not, like, as much as I really didn't like that, I still had a problem because think about, like, how at the end of Sense of a Hoodie, how, you know, how Moon and River seem to have a ton of respect for Marco. I mean, after all, he did, like, you know, he's Star's friend. He made sure she didn't get into too much trouble on Earth, even though she did a couple times. And, you know, protected her, you know? Okay.
And yet, then once he comes back, pretty much every knight is a total asshole to him, not realizing that basically the knights didn't manage to do crap because of River's incompetence in the first place.
They even laugh at Marco. Like, yeah, I mean, truth be told, I didn't get that mad at the Knights, but at the same time, I feel your pain, Steven.
Ugh.
I will agree
That
that
was-
that particular point with the whole deal with River was probably upsetting. I honestly am going to admit I didn't realize that. I don't think I actually registered that. Partially because I wouldn't want to.
Hey,
But I will point out, as far as like the other characters, like you know, the other squires that are around, or the knights that are kind of like just like laughing on the sidelines at Marco, or kind of like giving him a hard time. You got to keep in mind that for the most part, they've had no personal interaction with him, and their main introduction of him to them was the big reveal by Ruperian, where it's just.
Gabby,
Gabby,
you're starting to freeze up.
You're cutting off.
Can you say that again? Can you say that again? You were freezing up.
Oh. The main way that the you know, all the secondary characters like the knights and the squires that are introduced, they don't have much of an introduction to Marco. They don't know him as a person, besides him being revealed in Ruberiot's song as Star's romantic interest and flat out boyfriend in the song, even though that's not the case. So to them, it's like, oh, he's just getting everything because he's Star's boyfriend. But look, he got duped. That's what you get for not.
That had more to do with the next episode. That has more to do with the next episode, which is one of the reasons why it's my
it is
least
pointed
favorite
out in the next episode, but we have to keep in mind this applies here too. Otherwise, it could have been a lot more, you know, kind of like neutral as to the whole thing, because it could be like, oh, okay, we know Marco. He's not a bad dude at all, or he doesn't just take advantage of everything. But no, to them, it's just this kid who tried to just kind of come up out of nowhere, and now he's being duped. That's what you get for trying to come out of nowhere. You know?
You know,
It
I honestly,
has nothing to do with River's, you know, I don't know, lack of,
you know,
I don't know what you call that. But just, no, I'm sorry, River. Big mess up on
You
your part.
screwed up. You screwed up big time.
Stefano, you're so bad.
River even said, yeah, this is a knight's cape, you know. So, oops, plot hole, hee hee hee.
Like,
I really don't know what to think, because as far as for me, I kind of don't have as much of like an idea of that. I've always just been kind of chill with those kind of things, like yeah, it might not necessarily be the material that's like specifically supposed to be used for something, but hey, it was used for something different and it's so cool. So I personally, though I can see how it could be offensive, I'm not very affected by it, I guess.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the reason why that feels very irritating. We can kind of construe that in our heads. Like we can definitely think about that what's going on in between the scenes. But specifically, this is also why I'm going back to the timing because of how the episodes are timed in front of each other. We just kind of have to guess that amongst ourselves, and even when we come to that conclusion, it's done in a way where you ultimately it's still frustrating to watch because even though these new characters don't know, we are painfully painfully aware that that is totally not the case. They pretty much spend the entire first 7 episodes cramming that into your head that that is not the case. That this character has already gone through an arc that earned more respect than this. So that's what I mean by it feels extremely contrived because it's
Oh,
doing it in a way
definitely,
where
and
we're not learning anything new. We're just seeing one character that we actually do like get the shit kicked out of him.
oh yeah, and I guess this is part of the whole example that I've been pulling out, where it's like I kind of just move on really quickly and put all of the questions, I just put all the answers to the questions in my own head. Like I just kind of go, okay, this happens because of this, this happens because of that, blah 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 blah. And I don't really kind of like follow it as far as the episode. If the episode doesn't provide it, I just move on with it, knowing going back to another episode. Okay. So again, it's kind of me just being really quick about things. Just kind of like, okay, point made. Okay, point made. Building up, building up, building up. Boop, boop, boop. Next thing, next thing. So it partially could be that, just the fact that I move on really quickly as far as story development. To a fault, I will admit. Probably one of the reasons why I have a hard time writing stories because I tend to kind of just like put things. Okay, now this happens. Now this happens. Now this happens. But definitely, I could see why those kind of things are happening. And I mean, yeah, I guess it's still. I can imagine it's very frustrating. I just am not in a position to appreciate it as much, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, Bobby, you first then.
My sister worked very hard on this cake. Like, I'm very amazed she got it together quickly. And it got to a point where even my dad was like, well, you made her work so hard. Why didn't you buy it? And it's just, yeah. I mean, not that I will never wear it again, but it's just like, yeah. But, okay. I don't want to, like, keep bagging on this episode because, like I said, I do like the ending where, like, Star makes Marco a squire. Yes, it's so that he can be, her friend, but I gotta say...
Honestly, that opens up the conversation to, okay, I already talked about the whole thing with River and the Knight. That's actually bad, in my opinion. But one thing that's almost as, if not more controversial, but a lot more interesting to debate about is the Starko dynamic throughout this episode and how it changes everything. So we'll go with you, Bobby, since you're begging to say it.
Yes. I don't really see it as more of a Starko dynamic. Well, it kind of is, but I see it more as a Star's reaction to Marco coming back. If Star was already more taken by, like, coming back to Muni, because, like, think about it, the last episode we saw Star Muni, she was just making, like, amends with Tom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get, like, why is she so, like, confused? Like, she's treating it like Marco came back, like, 10, 15 years later. Like, and she's all like, oh, so much has changed for me, Marco. Like, I could see her being confused in terms of, like, a relationship or even like, not, or something like that. But it's just like, I don't understand why is she so confused in the way she is. Like, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that she's confused. Like, I'm not expecting her to be like all happy and those stuff. But
Gabby, I see you're gonna say something.
Gabby,
I just
please
right
educate
now.
me on this.
Wait, first, I want to say this right now before you say, because I think I know what you're gonna say. I'm gonna say this right now. I do understand a bit why she would act this way. I do understand that regardless of if they're, no matter how close they are, the fact that he shows up out of nowhere should be both irritating and in context. She should basically don't. She should basically have no idea what exactly to do. So it kind of makes sense. But even in that context, all things considered, I do think she acted a bit too cold at the first.
Yes.
Okay, Gabby.
Okay,
now
please, Gabby.
you can
Okay.
talk.
Definitely, we gotta point out, and this is the intention. I feel like this is what they were trying to get through with the writing.
Yeah, we think so too.
Star was actually acting, in my opinion, a little too cold, but
That's all we need agreement on. That's all we need agreement on. We get what you're trying to say.
we need to think about why, because that's the question I love to ask. Now, we have to keep in mind that not only was Star not expecting Marco to come back, right? Star is working really hard right now just to kind of get the whole concept of Marco knowing that she likes him and still liking him and potentially wanting to be with him out of her head. She wants to put that away. She wants to focus on other things and leave it for another time. A little more distant in the future than she ended up having to come back to it too. Now, what happens with that? She kind of gets the feeling that feels sort of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with this right now. Why are you here? Don't do it. Now, the other thing, she's also fighting off the thought of, oh my gosh, he's back. And he broke up with his girlfriend. Oh my
I
god.
didn't really see that much of it. She was just like, oh, cool.
Oh, we are not seeing that completely portrayed by Star, but why? Why? Because she doesn't want to make a big deal out of this. But we know somewhere in her head, she's right there with the thought of, oh my gosh, he's single, oh my gosh, he's coming back to me. You could appreciate what that could feel like as being someone who was feeling like they were being left in the friend zone indefinitely and just out of nowhere just getting that. It could be extremely confusing and potentially leave someone in denial, which I think is partially what's going on with Star. Kind of with the denial of like, oh, I'm done with that. I don't want to focus on that. I don't like him like that anymore. I just want things to be normal and not have to deal with stuff.
I agree with that to a certain extent, and I do get partially why they didn't show that they brushed it off, but I do think they were almost too vague about it at points. Just the fact that they had to basically center
Ding,
that
ding,
entire
ding.
that they had
Ding,
to
ding, ding, ding.
wait. Let me finish first. That they had to pretty much put that entire conversation through a far off stairway shot. Basically, just the fact that they purposely don't show any of their expressions throughout that, I think actually hurt that scene. I honestly think that because we can't guess whatever they're thinking until some lines later on, it really does come off less as what you're saying right there, and more that Star is just being extremely cold. I do think like one shot of their faces as they're going down the stairs to our beloved janitor, that would have helped a lot because
Again, partially my whole tendency to kind of just like hyper-analyze stuff and come up with my own answers.
Bobby, you were
See,
about to say something.
You summed it up perfectly, Steven. This whole idea that the biggest problem with the season is that certain story arcs, or at least where they're going, are a little too vague. You know, I mean, even things like how Star is like I could understand her thinking, you know what, at this point, I just, I don't want a relationship with Marco. But the first time we see that, like, I don't know if I just want it more implied, but the first time we see it is in Club Stub when she says, Marco and I are not a thing, you know? So, you don't want to get with Marco? Okay, that's fine, but it's just like, it just comes off as, like, I just feel like, particularly you,
Especially
Steven, and I,
yeah.
this,
Okay.
like, the problems with the season is that there are parts of it that are just too vague, you know?
I could bring this in with something with the similar thing happening with Steven Universe, particularly in one of the more recent I think it was a Steven Bomb. We kind of had that same kind of thing happening where a whole bunch was happening so quickly that it just didn't come out completely well. The main thing I've been noticing with this tendency in Steven Universe, I felt like it has a bit to do with the pressure that creators are having as far as pumping out new episodes, and the fans being like, when are we gonna get new episodes? When are we gonna get new episodes? We don't want to wait. Yeah.
Especially since you're adapting it, you're not adapting anything. You're doing it entirely off of scratch.
Look,
Kind of.
if that's the case, I have a little message to the Star team if that's the case. I don't know if Darren FC remembers me. She probably doesn't. But I'm just like, if that's the case, I did not go to the Gallery Nucleus exhibit in this cosplay. If they do it next year, I'd love to. But let me just, at least me, I can wait. Maybe not like 5 years in between. That's ridiculous. But it's like, if I have to wait a few months between Battle from Uni and the rest of Season 3, so be it. Like, it's like how we talk about in the video game world. There's always this talk about, do you want the games out right now, even if they might be buggy, or do you want to sit and wait? As a guy who's had to sit and wait for video game releases as a kid, Super Smash Brothers, the Wii, okay, I might be a little upset, but I'll wait. Okay.
And to add to your point, this isn't a game. This is a show. You can't just patch it in at the next minute.
Right.
Exactly. And I want to point out, I too
South
can
Park
appreciate
is able
how
to
long it takes to get a story right. Heck, even with Rick and Morty, they took their good time in order to write out an entire season and get it out. They had a lot of problems, and they had an entire year. They took an entire year. But what else are these creators dealing with? We have to keep in mind that's not the only problem they're having. When you have a hyper fandom, especially, which, thank goodness, I'm going to say, doesn't seem to be a problem, particularly with Star vs. the Forces of Evil. But
That's what you get. That's what you get when you have a smaller audience. You tend to have lesser controversy.
Yes, you kind of get that pressure where it's like, oh my gosh, everybody's expecting the best and like the most amazing stuff, and we're just human. Oh my gosh, I don't even know how I was doing it before. Help!
Bobby?
But here's the thing: yes, we're very rabid fans of these shows. These fans are also very, very, very meticulous people. So they're going to call out plot holes, character inconsistencies as they see them. So
yeah, I cannot count the amount of people on Reddit who were basically, several of them were basically calling out the show constantly for the fact that they didn't take advantage of the 16-year time forward in running with scissors, and that Marco mostly stayed the same after that. Like there was
Him staying the
slight
same,
change,
yeah,
but it was
that's kind
so
of
minimal.
weird.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in the future we'll see him use a sword, but
I get the
Yeah.
feeling that's gonna be in next week. Yeah, I basically just described it. There is gonna be another episode specifically with Marco and Hekapu like training. So
is it weird how like the only like in case the people watching don't know, I like writing fan stories. The only Hekapu story idea I've had to date, and I don't know if this will ever come out, is Hekapu meets Brundlefly. Like, in case the guys watching don't know, Brundlefly,
Oh,
the Fly 1986. Go look that.
Brundlefly!
how you come up with those ideas, I will never know.
Star and Alien, Hekapu and the Brundlefly. You've been on a body horror experience lately, Bobby.
Yeah.
And I haven't even seen Videodrome yet.
Oh, that's a tough
Whoa.
one.
Which I do have an idea of mixing regular show and Videodrome, since with regular show you can get away with a little more. But
That's true.
I can't wait till you watch The Thing.
Oh
Maybe.
man.
But we're getting
Oh.
sidetracked, so
Yeah. Okay, I will say this. Okay, we talked about specifically Star acting cold. We talked about the meat towel, but I agree with you, Bobby, specifically on the resolution. That like not the whole thing with the lid cloth monster. That was kind of okay. Oh, before I move on to this, I almost forgot. Gabby, want to add anything specifically on Eclipsa working as counselor for Star?
I thought that very fitting. Really, like that's what I was
I
expecting.
did kind of get a
instead
feeling of,
being
can you
still
trust
off
Eclipsa?
again.
Well, Eclipsa did just save
really
Marco
see much
indirectly.
more out of it. And I mean, okay, I will point out one more thing, that Eclipsa probably has a good wrap around how those kinds of things works. Like she's experienced some kind of crazy things, especially with the person she had interest in. So if Star were going to go to anyone, I would be surprised if she didn't go to Eclipsa.
Yeah,
Like that was just a given.
Yeah.
definitely.
And of course, I just love the fact it's like, oh, he's working in the lid cloth. Well, then your problems will probably be solving themselves. I was just
Or
like,
the fact
whoa.
like Star didn't even have to say anything about, oh, and I like him and blah blah blah, and Eclipse is just like, okay, who is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no implication that Star liked Marco or was talking about someone she liked, and all of a sudden, just Eclipse picked up on it, and she's like, who is it? Like that was.
Do you think Eclipsa thinks that Star really likes him?
Probably.
I mean,
Like,
if you could pick up on that easily, I think it would be very apparent to her that these two got something going on.
She's as powerful as the truth die.
Well, that's true. Alright, so, should we move on to the last episode?
No, right before that, I specifically brought up that Eclipse thing to just agree with you on. I like how it resolved, specifically with the squirehood, with Star making Marco his squire. And there's actually a bit of an Easter egg throughout that, where in order to, before she basically rebuilds a room for him and goes through that whole process, guess what those pictures on the wall were while Star was walking him throughout the hallway?
I forgot.
Those were the previous kings of Muni. Foreshadowing. Symbolism. And now you're just Slackjaw.
Hey, ask me how I'm
Isn't that little? Jeez.
I don't want to sing that song. My dad is downstairs. I don't want him to go Charlie sing a song he and I like. But
Yeah, this is what I mean by
That's so
I pick up on.
funny. I'm glad you pointed that out, Steven. I did not catch that.
there is hope. There is hope. if I had a rain machine right now, it would be raining all over me. But it's just like
Honestly, that's what kind of mended the cold shoulder that Star was giving him not earlier.
Hey,
That specific.
I have one question.
Sure.
Remember when Marco asked Star, "So are you and Tom?" And Star just goes, "Yeah." Did she
That's
mean?
actually yes. They are currently back together. That is why Ponyhead was going like, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me!" at the end of Demon Season.
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of glad mainly because we've seen a lot of development on Tom's part, but I feel like that's giving a bad idea. Because we gotta keep in mind this doesn't happen very often. This is a very special case. You know, like, they were, you know, we had a group of people who were able to plan this out and make it work and apply it to the story. You know, and a lot of people could take this and be like, oh, I should get back with that one person that I had problems with because people improve and blah, 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 you know?
And that would be bullshit in any other case, but this is one of the cases where we have seen multiple times that actually is the case. Like, we don't know if it'll permanently fix them or not, but Tom has been getting better considerably.
And this is the thing. It's not that it's not possible, even in real life, because I mean obviously it is. But we should not right off the bat expect this from anyone, just anyone who is having problems. And the main reason I like pointing this out is because I feel like a lot of people like to take shows like this as examples of how to live their own life, which I'm going to point out that can be extremely problematic. But two, it can only become problematic if you don't read into it the right way. We have to take into consideration what Tom has had to go through and the development that he has experienced in order to get to that. If a person that you are trying to put in that position hasn't gone through that kind of development in a more realistic way, you can't expect that from them, and you can't force it onto them because, we are talking about a fictional story that was planned out. Now, why do I have a problem with this? Even with this blunt reality, there were potentially still people who are going to look at this and look at it the way that they want and say, yes, this is completely a reason for me to try to get back with my problematic ex-boyfriend.
When in reality, he might not even done half the stuff that Tom's been doing.
Exactly. I see this happen so many times with problematic couples, particularly two. Chucky and Tiffany.
And you.
From the Child's Play franchise. And Harley Quinn and Joker. Now, I can go on and on with the problems with Harley Quinn and Joker's relationship and how I would worry for anyone who wants that as an example for relationship goals.
Let me put it this way. If they honestly think that Harley Quinn and Joker is something to look forward to, her character in the recent comic would probably say, yeah, that's total bullshit, because essentially she's an entirely different character now. That is not her dynamic.
That's why she was given her own set of comics to go out and explore the world that she's in, the Batman universe, on her own. She came to the realization that Joker was problematic, abusive, and potentially psychotic. I'm going to call it out right now because, yeah, that guy ain't right in the head in any way, shape, or form. Now, I'm going to leave that there because I feel like if I keep talking about it, this whole video is going to go off on a complete tangent. But essentially, guys, don't take this the wrong way, please. write to people who can
So,
actually.
okay, this is so. Now I am just confusing them. By the way, in case you guys couldn't hear, that was the Shin was listening. I was playing.
Oh yeah.
So
But I want
okay,
to bring it back to specifically what everyone thought about the squirehood ritual, because that's also a thing besides the whole king symbolism stuff, that pretty much you can write just entire paragraphs on what that would symbolize about their dynamic from this time forth. Like, just it's essentially proclaiming, yes, platonic or not, these two are not gonna be separate. Like, they are going to find a way to either as friends, lovers, or just a squire and a queen. Are gonna find a way to make this work. At the same time, I also think this is Darren Nevsky's way of basically putting us shippers on a tightrope walk from this this episode forth.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. Because, goodness gracious, this is the perfect way to leave that kind of thing ambiguous, and even more so than most ways that I've seen work out. Like, most of the time, I will say that they leave it ambiguous in the sense of it can go in one extreme or it can go in another. But as you pointed out, Stephen, there is now another factor brought in here, because we do not only have two friends trying to mend their friendship or just their interactions with each other, but now Marco has an obligation. He has a job. And potentially, this can become a situation in which he will take decisions in order to keep his job a job. Now, that might not necessarily happen, but the potential of it is definitely there.
so if Tom and Star are dating again, why would then what was with that king foreshadowing stuff?
Well, that's essentially okay. Here's what one thing I can say is that what I think is sort of brilliant. Like, I've been talking about how cold Star did that, but I do like her new motivation throughout the season. That it not in any other fashion, like specifically her getting along with Tom, her treating Marco poorly and refusing to visit Muni. She only calls Jana out of the people when it comes to getting help. All of that in any other context would be seen as running away, but it's taking that whole plot line but giving it a reason to exist. She needs to be a better princess, and that involves having to judge what is necessary and what isn't. And that is a much more interesting way to handle that whole thing. Because yes, she was pushing Marco away, and is still now keeping more distance from him than probably before, but is doing it in a way that she's not running away from any of them. She is keeping them in check. And so that whole thing with the foreshadowing, in a way, it could be seen as, okay, I'm getting back with Tom in order to basically keep in line this area and not be distracted. But that all of the foreshadowing says that basically the end goal would still be what we're all thinking right here, but it's not going to be handed to us. We are going to have to see this be improved over time. And based on the taglines I've seen on some of the future episodes, that is definitely going to be the case. Like, I'm not going to spoil any of them over here, because holy shit, Wikipedia can be spoilers even with a single sentence. But we are going to see this whole will they, won't they situation not be treated as, okay, running away from your problems. No, it's actively confronting your problems, but fighting them at your own pace. So Stargo fans, keep hope. It's not the end of the world. You may or may not get what you're thinking about, but don't whine because you're just not getting it the way you want it to. It's gonna taste a lot better if you manage to get through this alive.
Okay, in that respect, it makes a lot of sense. So basically, she's getting back with Tom just so, since, she knows who Tom is, to kind of keep her cool.
Yeah.
Yes, I will kind of point out that it may be in a sense of way for Star to kind of get that sort of attention that she is, kind of feeling a need for. Because I'm going to say that when you do have an interest on someone and aren't in a position to ask for that person's attention, you will still have that need for the attention, even if it's not from that person specifically. So that could very well be the motivation for Star to, intent this with Tom. I figured that was something they were going to kind of work out back when she tried going to her other crush. I don't remember his name.
Wow, you forgot his name?
Well, he wasn't that much of a character so much as a
No.
joke.
Yeah, which I feel was kind of like pushed out
Oscar
of the way
Green.
because
No, Oscar
Star
Greason.
found out that she just could not relate with him. So, good move there. I think for the rest of the motivation, Steven did a great job in putting that all into context. And I will point out, this is exactly what I've been trying to say, in that we have no idea necessarily what the intention is completely with the star code dynamic. And yes, I will refer to it as a star code dynamic, particularly because when we are talking about ships are pointed out despite whether they are completely canon or not within the show, even if, again, the characters are still technically platonic as far as the canon of the show, which is the case here. We still have that going around. We still have the people considering them potentially, a relationship, and there is a certain dynamic between the two characters, even if it's not a romantic one.
At least not yet.
So,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that just to, be a fan. I'm saying, since we're saying don't throw it away.
Exactly. That's the thing. It could definitely change. In fact, we're seeing change in the dynamic is again. How is that going to change? And the only way we're going to figure out is that we see why it's changing.
I will say one thing though, is that I am looking forward to where they're taking this, but I do hope that if they go in the direction we're all wanting, they don't save it for the end. I hope that we actually do get to have at least one season exploring, okay, we've reached what we're saying is the end goal, but technically that's only the beginning. How far can we actually take this through? Like, what stories can we drain out of that? Like, I do hope, like, before the show reaches its ending, we at least find out how far this dynamic can go if it goes where we think it's going. So I'm glad that they haven't announced a renewal yet, but we're at least getting a fourth season. So if it doesn't get a renewal, I hope they manage to come to a decision by the end of this season at least.
Well, we'll have to wait until like January, February for Disney to announce that they're going to renew Star for the 5th, which please do, Disney. I'm not saying make Star go on for years and years and years. Like, I understand.
Don't Adventure Time it. Please don't Adventure Time it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I will say I would like to see more than a season. So, and hey, if it does end there, I mean, in the case of the fan base, hey, people are still obsessing over Gravity Falls, and that's been, over for a while now. So yeah.
Alex Hirsch, please give us a spin-off someday, any day.
Oh well, hey, we're getting the I think they said they were releasing some graphic novels that were going to continue some of the story, if I understood it correctly. So yeah, rejoice!
You just found out, Steven?
I never knew.
They announced it at D23 this year.
I don't follow D23, and you didn't tell me anything about it.
Oh, well, since you're on Twitter, I assumed.
The internet, bro. I don't follow them either.
Oh man. Oh god, I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
You look like you just experienced ecstasy, Stephen.
No, I'm not pleasuring myself on the internet. I'm not Louis C.K., okay? It's fine.
Are we just going to keep staring at Stan's dirt face?
Or are we going to talk about the last
let's,
episode?
Okay, let's talk about the last episode. And honestly, I'm going to leave this one to you guys because of the reasons I talked about. This is honestly my least favorite episode.
Trying to remember.
It's the one where they go to the shop out, the Black Friday shop out at Quest
Oh
Buy.
yeah! For some reason, I didn't think that was the last one.
Yeah, well, it's basically just the squires and knights bullying him throughout.
Yeah, and like I said before, this is exactly what I was talking about when I was saying, you know, the whole idea that the main idea, you know, these characters are going to have a Marco, is going to be that he's just this kid that got pulled into the whole thing only to please the princess, and that he's really not good at anything, and there's not much to him other than the princess likes him, which is obviously not the case. Yeah, I can't really see much more that we can take out from the episode. I guess maybe that Marco is kind of leveling with Star a bit too, in the sense that
he's taking his. The one thing I got out of the episode is Marco was taking the whole squire thing a little too seriously, you know.
Which I feel is very in tune with his personality, and the fact that he does always like to take pride in his work and show and kind of give himself off as this very prepared, very organized, very, you know,
right,
very, you know, kind of like what's the word? This person that could easily achieve what they need to do, you know, kind of just like very get to it type deal, you know, not having to kind of have people see him as someone who doesn't really earn what he attains or what he achieves. And so this definitely kind of is a blow right to where he feels the most. I was really. What are you looking at?
I can't see because of the lighting.
It's fan art. It will live on. Well, not fan. It's screenshots from.
Funny thing. The character Higgs, you know, the female squire.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up on Reddit. She might actually be inspired off of someone's fan art. OC.
Oh wow!
I'm not even kidding.
That is awesome.
Yeah, her now it is kind of, you know, kind of shitty that basically they if that is the case, they used it for basically an asshole character.
That's true. That's true.
Yes, we appropriated and made her mean.
Watch out, fan artists.
Yes, your OC might be next.
Oh look, Tom's mom.
Aww.
Yeah,
I think I kind of pretty much, even if I did not do a good job, I apologize, but kind of just put into context what I had to say about the episode.
Yeah. So, Bobby, I think you said that, okay, you didn't, I don't think you said that you hated the episode like me, though.
I honestly had fun with it, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
it wasn't the most necessary episode of, the ones that came out last week, but, you know, it was kind of neat.
Yeah, I can see that. I wish I could have fun with it. There were parts I think could have been fun, but just the context really irked me a lot. Honestly, this whole Squire arc, I hope they handle it quickly, real soon.
I feel like they will. I don't really see this going much
No,
farther.
it's not that big a thing.
Okay.
Wait, Gabby, you sent me
Yes.
something on
Nope,
Tumblr.
that was me.
Can I look at
That
it?
was
Or
me.
You can look
That
at
was
it
me.
now. You can look at it now. It was
No.
essentially storyboarding for that for the whole scene where Marco takes Jackie out for the ultimate date.
Mhm.
That's pretty
Which,
much
by
it.
the way, that ultimate date really was ultimate. It's just like,
I know, it was so awesome. Like that is, I'm going to admit, that is my goals. Like my goals for a date. Like if you want to take me out,
no. It's like this. Okay.
I'm
No,
sorry.
here's the thing.
You
You
know,
want to take me out?
Oh my gosh, that would be an awesome date to go out. I'm sorry.
No, here's the thing. If you want to take me out, once you're done done going through an entire pier, say that you have $650 left for food.
Oh,
That
I feel like
that
that
part
may be a bit too much, though it would be awesome. But
that part had me, just Jackie's expression when she thought that he had $650 left. That
oh,
had me
that's
laughing.
true.
Like,
Yeah,
it was
like oh my gosh, I probably will not ask for that.
No.
Even though I love food, I also appreciate moderation. So,
okay.
Yeah.
but definitely like that's just like I'm going to admit I actually felt quite jealous that you didn't go on a date like that. I was just like.
Well, come on, it's a date with Margot. In this universe, apparently that means everything.
Oh, that's so true, though. I mean, yeah, he's just kind of the person that you would expect to just kind of like meticulously think out everything for a plan, for like a date like that. Just kind of like everything must be perfect.
Right. So I guess we went through all the episodes.
Yeah, we did.
Yep.
Yep.
Overall, I definitely had some problems with some of it, but mostly I'm still interested in where it's going.
Same. I mean, some things, like I said, are a little too vague, but, I still think it went pretty well. And, kind of like Battle for Muni, it goes places you don't expect. So, yeah. Gabby?
Sorry, what?
Final
What
thoughts?
Awesome. Great. I want more episodes, please.
Like, here's an idea of just how easy, how like specifically. Okay, when Bobby was actually ahead of me when it came to episodes, it was around like I think Tuesday or Wednesday, and I just said like, I'll probably get it done by the end of the week. I ended up watching the first 2 episodes Thursday night when technically it was Friday morning because I basically kept on watching till it was 2:30 in the morning and just like
Oh my
I have to go to sleep, but I want to keep watching. So I basically woke up 10:30 in the next morning and then watched the remaining 2 episodes right after waking up. So yeah,
Man, there are few experiences I can relate to that. Mainly, my
it is
whole
one of the only things
experience
that
that I
does that.
talked to you about with El Topo. You mentioned
Oh
the
yeah.
I stayed up. What I thought
I get
was
to
like I think I started around midnight. I think it was like 10.
Oh yeah,
Watching
the
it
Holy
once,
Mountain.
and then I stayed up to watch it another time, hearing the commentary on it and finding out I'd been up until 5 o'clock in the morning.
Well, yeah, Jodorowsky will do to you. Like, I've only seen the Holy Mountain, but already I'm just like, I want to know everything about this weirdo.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be one of the next ones I'm going to be looking into. So holy moly, I'm bracing myself.
Bobby, if you're ever in the mood for something just bananas, go watch some Jodorowsky films. They are madness. I love it.
I was going to recommend that when we were making plans for another art film meetup. I was just gonna be like, guys, let's watch this. But sadly, I was not able to give the suggestion only because it didn't end up happening.
Well, you'll tell me more about it, guys, in the group chat. So
Yeah.
Definitely. I must be off, for I have a hungering brother who wants to be fed his milk and cookies.
all right, so
So
so we coming back next weekend for the next set of episodes.
Definitely.
Yeah, let's do it then.
Okay, guys. Bye.
Sarko for life.
Sarko for life.
Hey guys, this has been the Butterfly Show on the Blood Moon Bobby YouTube channel. Please subscribe for more of our discussions and trailer reactions to episodes of Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Please like, comment, share, and check out our other videos. Thanks for watching.